Hello and welcome back to Ronnie the Reader. Today we are going to be discussing my anticipated releases for 2024. I typically don't do a video like this very often, and so I'm excited to just kind of go through some of these books. It's mostly in the first half of the year. I continue paying attention to kind of new releases that are coming out, or just if I have enough that I am excited for actively that I know are coming out. Maybe I'll do a second half of the year video like in the middle of 2024, like in June or July. We'll see, but for now I have I think it's 23 anticipated releases to go over. So we're going to go through them. I'm going to try to do it pretty quickly. It's not like I want to be spending all day on these. I mean, it's really just kind of going over the synopsis and the release dates and letting you know that I'm going to try to prioritize to read them in the new year. But we'll see. So let's go ahead and jump in. The first book that I am going to be excited for next year is going to be Radiant Heat by Sarah Jane Collins. This book is going to be released on January 23rd by Berkeley, or published, and it kind of follows this woman who has survived or escaped this wildfire that kind of goes through her hometown. I think the synopsis says something about Victoria, so I think it's set in Canada. But essentially when she is coming, I believe, out of her home after this fire has kind of swept through everything, she finds this woman is actually dead in her driveway, and she finds a note that just has our main character's name on it. So sounds really intriguing, sounds a little bit of a different kind of setup to mystery thrillers than what I typically read. And I will say most of these books, I think pretty much all of them, have some sort of mystery or thriller component. Besides kind of one, but we'll get to that. So yeah, this is the first book that I am excited for next year. The next book that I am excited for is First July Wins by Ashley Alston. And this book is coming out on January 2nd. So by the time this video is posted, it should be either today or the next day. I can't decide if I'm posting this on the 1st or 2nd. But yeah, this book should be coming out soon. And basically this one is following this woman who assumes this identity. Basically it was bestowed upon her by a Mr. Smith. He told her to get close to this mark, and now she's kind of regretting it because she seems to be falling for her mark. So I'm super intrigued by this one. Seems kind of like a dark take on a Charlie's Angels, or kind of spy mystery type stuff. I'm sure it's some sort of con setup or something of that nature, but yeah, I'm just intrigued by this one, and I'm excited to potentially get to it next year. The next one that we're going to be talking about is If Something Happens to Me by Alex Finlay, and this one is going to be released on May 28th by Minotaur Books. So this book is the next book by Alex Finlay, who kind of burst onto the scene a couple of years ago with, I can't even remember what that book was, his debut or her debut. I actually don't know who this author is too much. I did read their book that was published either last year or the year before, The Night Shift. I listened to that one as an audiobook, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. I gave it, I think, 3 stars, but I really can't tell you too much about it other than what the initial premise of the story was. This book seems to be kind of a multi-POV story, but essentially the main plot or main description is about this guy named Ryan, who a couple of years ago was attacked in his car with his girlfriend, Allie, and basically he was knocked out, and when he woke up, Allie was gone. Now, a couple of years later, Allie's car has been dredged up from the bottom of a lake, and there are dead bodies in it, and there's a note or an envelope found that says, "If something happens to me." So super intriguing. Book seems to be kind of an international destination where Ryan initially, when he gets this call again, is living, I believe, in Italy, and then the synopsis mentions traveling to a bunch of different places. So this one is intriguing. It's a little bit more of a globe-trotting, kind of actively seems to be hunting down or solving this mystery. So I'm excited to give Alex Finlay another shot. Hopefully this one is a little bit better than The Night Shift, but we will see. The next one is going to be kind of the only straight up mystery thriller book on this list, and that's going to be Annibot by Sierra Greer, and this is going to be released, oh my gosh, excuse me, on March 19th. So this one follows in a like robot AI that was created by this guy basically as like his perfect girlfriend, and now she is becoming more sentient, developing more of a conscious, and deciding, what do I want, what's best for me, and it's just kind of a take on that. Seems a little like chick lit or something. I don't know. It seems very intriguing, and it's, kind of surrounding the whole discussion of AI right now. That's pretty big, just like in the world in general. So I'm super intrigued to kind of see what this one is all about. The next book we're going to be talking about is going to be The Haters by Robin Harding. This is going to be released on July 9th by Grand Central Publishing. And essentially this follows the story of an author who has kind of got fame and success finally and is excited for her book to be coming out. Seems to be getting really good reviews. And then the synopsis mentions her getting a like mysterious email and then her book getting basically like review bombed. So kind of a critique on like the reading and reviewing industry. So I'm excited to see what this one's about. I would be honestly a little bit more intrigued about this one if it was just more of like a kind of literary fiction novel. I'm interested to see what the mystery thriller element is of it. I mean, obviously like the mysterious or threatening emails, but like how's that going to tie in? I'm excited or intrigued to kind of see how that all folds. The next one we're going to talk about is She's Not Sorry by Mary Kubica, and this one's going to be released on April 2nd by Park Row Books. It's following the story of an ICU nurse who comes in to work one day and has a patient come in named Caitlin, and basically this patient allegedly had fallen off a bridge or was involved in some sort of bridge accident, but then our main character gets kind of entangled in that character's story and things going on. So, honestly, the synopsis doesn't sound that intriguing, but it is Mary Kubica, which I've actually only read one book by her, Local Woman Missing, but I did give it 5 stars. And I've always been meaning to check out more Mary Kubica, so I'm going to try to prioritize getting to this one in the new year, but she also has a ton of backlist of books that I could also always check out to give her a second chance. But I still am kind of just keeping my eye out on this one, and I'm interested to see what people think of it. The next one is going to be What Have You Done by Sherry LaPina, and this is coming out on July 18th, so one that's kind of on the back end of the year here. And this one is basically about a super small town, and the residents wake up one morning and a girl, I don't know if it's like a teenager, a woman, or like a young child, but based off the synopsis, I'm assuming it's actually going to be a child, is found dead in the middle of like a hayfield. Reading the synopsis kind of gave me the same vibes of like the JonBenet Ramsey case is kind of what I feel like this might be partially inspired by or something of that nature. So once again, it's a Sherry LaPina. I've read a couple of her books. I've actually read, I think, most, if not all of her releases. I think so at this point. And so she's just kind of like an auto-read author for me. I've really only loved one book by her. So, we'll see how this one is. I am intrigued by this synopsis because I do enjoy kind of smaller town insulated mysteries. Hopefully it's good, but we'll see in July. The next one is actually a YA release, and that is going to be Kill Her Twice by Stacey Lee. This one is coming out on April 23rd, and this is basically following the story of a young girl who was murdered in Los Angeles in 1932. So it's kind of set back in the day. There seems to be police covering up of this crime, and her sisters keep fighting to investigate and push forward in the investigation because they do want answers on obviously what happened to their sister. So I'm intrigued by this one. I am a little apprehensive of it being YA because I really love this premise. It seems really rich and unique and super kind of interesting. And so I'm hoping that the author can pull it off in the YA setting, but that kind of story is something I really enjoy. I don't know if this is the case, but if there's like a dual timeline of like a present day plus like the 1932 timeline and they like meet in the middle, kind of like a Taylor Jenkins Reid type story that she usually pulls off. I really love those types of stories. But either way, I'm super intrigued by this one. Super cool premise, it seems. Next one I'm interested in is No One Can Know by Kate Alice Marshall, and this one is coming out on January 23rd by Flatiron is who's publishing it. And this one is following a young woman named Emma who is just kind of been really having a hard time in life. And essentially, she kind of gets a call or goes back to her main hometown where she's been like estranged from her sisters and her family. And basically, you find out that her family was kind of, I guess, rich. And they used to live in this mansion when she was a child, and her parents were murdered in the house. So now no one lives there, and everyone thinks that Emma had something to do with it or is the one who committed the acts. So just kind of a classic, what seems like a classic, going back, figuring out what truly happened 20 years in the past. But yeah, I'm intrigued by this one. It seems like it's going to be pretty good. I know Kate Alice Marshall has have some other releases. This will be my first book by her if I do end up picking it up, if I don't read anything, by her previously or before reading this one. So yeah, I'm excited to see what this one is kind of all about. This next one, I'm definitely apprehensive, but still curious to see, kind of what it's going to do. And that is The Fury by Alex Michaelides. This one is coming out on January 16th, I believe. Yes. And this obviously is the author of The Silent Patient and The Maidens. I know The Silent Patient was very, divisive as far as whether people liked it or not. I ended up really enjoying The Silent Patient. I thought it was fast-paced, shocking. There were some twists, turns that I didn't see coming. I was not a fan of The Maidens. I actually believe I gave the book 2 stars when I listened to it as an audiobook. Really didn't like it. So initially I was kind of apprehensive about just reading Alex Michaelides' next works or next, whatever. But the book does sound interesting. It seems to be revolving around a old Hollywood star, or at least a former starlet of some sort. And she basically invites all of her friends to go on this seems to be annual trip to the Greek islands. And while they're there, of course, someone ends up dead. So once again, a very kind of classic premise, classic story seems to be going on. But Alex Michaelides, I will say his writing is interesting, and he does seem to like to kind of play with character not, I want to use the word motivation because I don't want to kind of give away the twists in his other books, but just not everything is always what it seems to be or what it seems to be going on. And while that did work for me in The Silent Patient, that's not what worked for me in The Maidens. So I'm just intrigued to see kind of how this one falls on the spectrum. And I think if I don't end up enjoying this one, this probably will be my last Alex Michaelides book. But if I do end up really liking it, then, we'll see how they go in the future. Number 12, or the 12th book that I am anticipating, is going to be Daughter of Mine by Megan Miranda. This is Megan Miranda's newest release for this year. It's coming out on April 9th, and it basically follows a woman who's returning to her old town. She's investigating the disappearance of her mother from many years before, yada, yada, yada. It's a Megan Miranda. I tend to always enjoy Megan Miranda's books. I don't know why. I just really, for some reason, just think they're so fun, so fast-paced, and just seem to kind of always get me. I think she's one of those authors that allows me to just really turn off my mind and let the story take over. So there's other people that I try, and that's how I tend to consume most stories, is just turning off my brain and letting it wash over me. And that tends to be how I get the most enjoyment. But when I can't do that, when I'm still thinking about it in well, this is obviously how things are going to happen, not in a I wonder what's going to happen kind of way. That tends to be when books get lower ratings. But Megan Miranda does not fall into that camp for me. She's very much allows me to just go into her stories and kind of lose myself until the end, until the final reveal. So interested to see how this one goes for her. The next one I'm really, really intrigued by. It is going to be I Know What You Did by KT Nguyen. This one is coming out on April 16th. It's being published by Dutton. And this basically follows the story of a young woman who is the daughter of a Vietnamese refugee. And then her mother, who was the refugee, ends up dying. And now the daughter is being accused of art theft, and she wakes up and there's someone dead next to her, and she's in this random hotel room. It just seems like a lot's going on for this character, so just seems like it's going to be very high paced or fast paced and high action, very thrillery, So super, super interested, and can't wait for this one to come out and see what I think. This one is going to be The Night of the Storm, and this is coming out on January 16th by Dutton, and this is basically following an Indian American family who gets trapped in this like house in, I think, Texas, riding out Hurricane Harvey, I think is what the premise says. So very like locked room, insulated, people can't leave. I've also am like a huge fan of the trope of like a storm locking people in one location and like forcing them to like interact and forcing things to come out. Like that specific kind of trope of like a locked room thriller, just like I really, really like and really enjoy. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's like also mixing of like a disaster element, which I don't think I am a huge fan of, but maybe I am. So yeah, this one sounds super intriguing as well. And just like, I think it's going to be pretty good. So that's why it's on this list. Next is going to be Baby X by Kira Peikoff, I believe is how you say that last name. This one's coming out on March 5th by Crooked Lane Books. And this one basically is set in the future where you can end up forming like a sperm or an egg from any piece of DNA from any person. And so now in this world, it's really rampant for those pieces of DNA to end up on like the black market and for people to buy them. And there's a lot of like celebrities who have just a ton of like illegitimate children out there. So this book is following a famous singer who is hiring a bodyguard to protect his DNA, and then when it is stolen and they have someone coming up saying, hey, I'm pregnant with your child, it's just kind of going from there. So it seems like an interesting critique and kind of like social commentary type book of like things going on in the world right now. So that's why I'm super intrigued by this one. It also seems to be interesting that this is going to be like a thriller type, like action bodyguard type book. I'm very intrigued to see if there's like a romance going to be going on, because I feel like I'm not going to like that if that is a heavy part of this book, but I won't know until I read it. Obviously, I could probably wait till reviews come out before I actually do pick it up, but yeah, I'm still interested by this one because it just is a really interesting premise, very kind of Black Mirror-esque. This book is How to Solve Your Own Murder by Kristen Perrin. This one is coming out on March 26th by Dutton. And this basically seems to be like a kind of light, more, not like cozy mystery, but basically it's following a girl who is solving the murder of her great aunt who predicted her own murder 60 years ago. So I think a lot of the comp titles, or at least on Goodreads, were Knives Out meets Thursday Murder Club, which I've never read Thursday Murder Club, but I know that's a little bit more of like a non-thriller mystery. Like it's a lot more mysterious, but like very like lovable characters, that kind of stuff. And Knives Out is obviously like a comedy mystery. So intrigued by this. Not the typical type of book that I do read, but I did enjoy like the Magpie Murders by Anthony Kurwitz, I think, or Kurowitz. And then The Word is Murder, I also read by him 2 years ago now in 2022. And I enjoyed those, and it seems like this book is along that same line. So that's kind of what this one has, or how this one has pulled my attention, got my attention. Yeah, I'm just interested by this one. Next one is also coming out on March 26th, and that's going to be The Truth About the Devlins by Lisa Scott Line. And this one is basically following a character named TJ, who's like the black sheep of his family. The synopsis mentions him having like alcohol problems and just like kind of being in a bad shape in life. And he comes from this family of lawyers who all have their own law firm. So, you know, he's just kind of not living up to family expectations. And basically one night he gets a call from his brother saying, hey, I just murdered one of our clients. And then that's where the book kind of takes off. So intrigued by this one, a little bit of a different type of setup than what I usually read in a mystery thriller. So kind of interested to see where this one ends up going. Right, the next book is going to be by an author I have read before, and that's going to be Murder Road by Simone St. James. This one is coming out on March 5th, so here pretty soon. And this one is set in the mid-90s. It does mention in the synopsis that there is a supernatural element in this book. So you kind of know that going in, which I'm always a fan of when I know it's going to be a little bit more supernatural than not. But basically, it's set in set in the mid-90s. You're in kind of a small old town, and there's been like a string of mysterious murders on this road. And now this couple is like getting intertwined as they end up on the road, and then there ends up being a murder. Seems like they're arrested, but then they kind of try to help solve it to, I guess, clear their own name. I really like Simone St. James. I've read 2 previous books by her and enjoyed them both. And both of them did have more supernatural elements. They weren't ever like over the top or crazy. So, I think she is good at pulling that sort of stuff off. So definitely going to be checking out this one. The next one is going to be Look in the Mirror by Catherine Steadman. This one is coming out on July 30th, which I believe thus far is the latest release date on the list. I think it's the latest release date on this whole list. And this one is following 2 women. A woman basically finds out that her father has died and she's inherited a home on the British Virgin Islands. And then the other woman is this nanny whose, I guess, kids never show up. So she just ends up living in the house. She was going to be nannying them. And then there's a sign on the door that says, like, stay out of the basement or something like that. The synopsis is a little wonky. I think they really haven't figured this one completely out yet, since it is still almost 8 whole months at this point from that book being released. But still, I am intrigued. I know people have read other Catherine Steadmans that have come out within the last couple of years or so. This would be my first one. I might try to read a Catherine Steadman before this one comes out, just to kind of see what I'm thinking, how we're vibing. But if not, I'm intrigued to pick this one up on its own. I think it'll be interesting, but we'll see. Next one is going to be Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. This one's coming out on July 25th by William Morrows, who's publishing this one. And basically this one is following the story of like this cult movie that was being made. I don't think it gives a date in the synopsis. If it does, I don't remember. But I'm assuming like probably the 70s around. And basically this movie was like super disturbing. There was only ever, I think, 3 scenes of it released, but it kind of gained this like cult status, cult following. And now Hollywood, and the synopsis just says Hollywood wants their big budget remake. But there's one living star left from the movie, I believe, and he's very like not wanting this to happen. I believe that he believes the movie is cursed. So intriguing. This will be my second ever Paul Tremblay. I only ever read The Cabin at the End of the World by him, and I really didn't like that book. I know that's like kind of a unpopular opinion, but I never read Paul Bearer's Club that came out last year. I think he had another one. I know he's had some like short story anthologies come out as well. So I'm interested in giving him a second shot. This one sounds much more up my alley of things that I'm into and tropes that, I tend to enjoy. So that's why I'm, jumping into this one. Coming out a little bit later on in the year though, so still a whiles away, but I think this one's going to be good. I'm just like, I don't know, for some reason I have this feeling that I'm just really going to like this book. But we'll see later on in the year. The next one I'm also super, super excited for, and that's going to be The Last Murder at the End of the World, and this is by Stuart Twerton. This is the same person who wrote The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hugo, The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn, this one, Evelyn something. I don't know. That one came out at the same time. Whatever. But that book I really, really loved. I think I only ever give it 4 stars actually when I read it, but like retroactively it probably should be a 5-star because I like still remember that book and still actively really, really love it. But this one is going to come out on March 21st, and basically it follows the story, or it's like set in this small like island town where the whole world has been kind of wiped out by this like mysterious fog. It just kind of comes over people and sounds like, based on the synopsis, it suffocates you. And so now this town has like a force field or like a protection system around it. But then somehow the security system gets down. There is a murder that takes place and everyone wakes up and they've lost their memories. So now it's everyone, including the murderer, investigating this murder to try to find out what happened so that way they can get the security system back up and prevent the fog from coming in this town. Sounds very like out here, you know, like what? But I don't know. I'm super intrigued. It's very interesting. It's a different type of story. It's not something that you usually see a whole lot. At least I haven't. So I'm super excited to see what I think of this one because I did read The Devil in the Dark Water that he also came out with a couple of years ago, and I didn't like that one. So this one sounds much more like up my alley and something that I would be really into. Two more. So this next one is going to be The New Couple in 5B by Lisa Unger. I think that's how you pronounce that author's last name. They have a lot of books, but this one is coming out on March 5th. It's going to be their new release for next year. And basically it follows this couple who inherits a like luxury hotel or luxury, I think, apartment complex, I believe from the male's uncle. And then they move in and things are okay, but then they start noticing some weird stuff, like cameras everywhere, weird residents going on, like weird employees. So they're like, what's going on? So this one, very much giving me the same vibes of Lock Every Door by Riley Sager and The Paris Apartment by, who wrote The Paris Apartment? Was that Lucy Foley? I really enjoyed, I loved Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. Obviously, he's like one of my faves. Did not like The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. So we will see how this one goes. This would be my first book by Lisa Unger, or Unger. I'm not sure. Once again, sorry of how to pronounce that last name. But I know that they have a ton of books out. I was intrigued and interested in Secluded Cabin Sleep 6 that came out earlier this year, or like 2023. So yeah, this one, intrigued. We'll see how it shakes out because I definitely want to try to get to this one pretty soon after release. All right, and the last one is by a classic, and that is going to be One Perfect Couple by Ruth Ware. This one's coming out on March 21st by Gallery or Scott Press, or excuse me, Gallery/Scout Press. And this one basically is following 5 couples who are trapped on an island as a storm hits. Seems like they're going on like a couple's retreat, but things kind of go awry like that first day. Seems like there's some tensions going on. So then the storm hits, power seems to go out, they seem to be cut off, so then they kind of have to work together to survive. The synopsis does mention something of like this being an interpretation of And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. So I'm not sure if the couples or like one person is going to be like picked off. But once again, this sounds like a lot of tropes I really, really like. Now, I will say I did not like One by One by Ruth Ware when I did read that one, which is kind of a similar premise. It's people going to a ski lodge that all worked together. So we'll see. I have actually DNF'd the It Girl as well. I have not gotten to 0 Days yet by Ruth Ware, which came out in 2023. And of course, I've read a lot of her earlier works as well. So I don't know. I'm excited to go into One Perfect Couple just to see if I feel the same way about this one as I do of One by One, if I even finish it. The thing about Ruth Ware books is I tend to not like the audiobook narrator that they get to do Ruth Ware books. That's why I think I really disliked a lot of her earlier works before I started reading them physically. And then I tried to do It Girl by audio again, and I couldn't even finish it. I just really, really was bored and just didn't like the narrator and the narration style. Like, I apologize, not trying to like bash on, that narrator, but I wasn't enjoying it. Sorry, like that's my opinion. So I don't know what's gonna go with this one because I definitely don't want to buy it as a hardcover book, like brand new. I don't know. We'll see what I do. Maybe I'll try to get it as an ebook. I think that will be the best option for me. So yeah, that's this one. And that is actually the last one on the list. So that is 23 books that I'm excited for next year. Really just kind of the first half. Once again, like I said, if there are books in the second half of the year that I kind of get caught up with or start keeping an eye out, I might do this video in like June or July, kind of going through the second half of the year. So we'll see. But if any of these books made it to your anticipated list, definitely let me know. I guess this also serves as like a little bit of a 5-star prediction. I don't necessarily think every single one of these books is going to be a 5-star, but I am hopeful that I'm going to like all of them, or else I wouldn't have been intrigued by the premise and put it as an interested book in myself and put it on kind of my radar to be checking out. So yeah, this video will be fun to revisit probably next year at the same time and see what I think and if I read any or all of them, and kind of what their final ratings were. So let me know, like I said, what some of your anticipated releases are for 2024. And until next time, I will see you later. Bye.